Assalamu alaikum and welcome. I'd like to welcome all of you today and in this beautiful day of Ramadan, and we hope Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the best of health and wealth and faith and bring us closer together. Today we want to talk about something. Usually when people say turn right, we say turn left. So people say the month of Ramadan is the month of generosity and giving and kindness. So today we're going to say in the month of Ramadan you have to be very, very, very stingy. Do not waste a penny of it. Do not give in a moment of it. What am I talking about that we need to be very stingy about in the month of Ramadan? I'm talking about one of Allah's greatest blessings that He gave upon us. And we never think about it. If you were to ask me what are the blessings that Allah gave you, I might name 100. Anywhere from, alhamdulillah, for being Muslim and having family and friends and health and wealth and everything else. And we usually miss one of the most core important blessings that Allah has given us. What am I talking about? I'm talking about time. Time is such a blessing that Allah gave us and blessed us with. And unfortunately, just as we want to give things, this is the one thing that we don't just give away. We don't just throw it away. This is one of the most valuable things. Can you imagine that the one difference, after the mercy and grace of Allah, the only one difference between someone that goes to the highest point in Jannah and someone that goes to the deepest pit in the hellfire in Jahannam is how they spent their time. If you want to look at someone who is most educated and has the highest degrees and so on, and someone that dropped out of high school, the main difference after the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is how they spent their time. So time is one of the most powerful vehicles that Allah gave us that's going to take us from here to there, whatever there is. So if you want to have a better career, you want to grow in your career, if you want to grow in having a much closer family and grow your family and bless it in this beautiful month of Ramadan, if you're concerned about memorizing the Quran and reading it, it always reminds me of a story of, after one of the battles, and we all know this story, but there's a piece that I just want to add to it, is the Prophet ﷺ captured prisoners of war after one of the battles. And he told them that whoever teaches my Sahaba, now usually prisoners of war are people that are, they're very evil, and so you got to treat them a certain way. They came with a bad intent. But the Prophet ﷺ was so proactive because they knew how to read and write, and some of the Sahaba did not know how to read and write. So he told them, if you can teach my Sahaba, my companions, and he knew the value of education, how to read and write, I think it was 7 or 9 of them to read and write, then you're free to go. And they started to teach the Sahaba in the masjid. And so some of them were learning Islam because they were teaching the Sahaba and converted to Islam, and others were teaching. More importantly is there was a very old man. And this old man, like a lot of us, would basically say, you know what, I'm sitting here, I have nothing to learn, I'm too old to learn anything new. But this old man decided, you know what, I have some free time, why don't I use it on something constructive? Let me learn how to read and write. I know I'm not going to benefit anything from reading or writing at this age, but you know what, I have some time and it's beneficial, so let me do it. And he invested the time that he had going to the masjid with those prisoners of war and learning how to read and write. SubhanAllah, the most amazing thing, the Prophet ﷺ died, then came the time of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and he was the Khalifa, and then he died, and then came Umar ibn al-Khattab, and then after that came the time of Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu warda. When Uthman ibn Affan was the Khalifa, he wanted the people to get all the different collections of the Quran and put it into one book. And he chose about 3 or 4 of the Sahaba to do it. One of those 3 or 4 was this amazing old man. So each and every single one of us that reads the Quran today, he gets the same reward as we do. Why? Because he spent his time, he invested his time, even though at the time he might not have seen the value to it, but he said, let me learn something that's beneficial for me. Let me use my time towards it. So this is the month of Ramadan. A lot of us say, you know what, let's kill some time by sleeping, let's kill some time by playing some extra games, let's kill some time by just getting on the phone and playing something or whatever. And no one is saying that that's haram, but what we're saying is this is most valuable time. You're sitting in front of a treasure. You're sitting in front of one of Allah's greatest blessing to you, and that's your time. How you use it can elevate you to the highest points. Whether it's in your career, we need to plan our time. Whether it's in our faith, memorizing the Quran, reading it, learning how to pray and praying and so on. And one thing that's very important, and inshallah in the future we're going to talk more about planning, but one thing that's very important is always to plan our time. One thing that I strongly believe in is the importance of writing. So my assignment to myself in those beautiful days of Ramadan and for all of us is get a piece of paper. Because when you don't plan it, it never gets done. When you don't write it down, it never gets done. You always have the intention of, I want to read this much Quran and I want to give this out and I want to do that. And at the end of the day, we always sit back and say, you know what? There isn't enough hours in the day. No, there are enough hours in the day. Because the Prophet ﷺ, the greatest man ever, and the Sahaba and Ahlul Bayt, all those amazing people had the same 24 hours a day that we had, and they accomplished so much. It's unbelievable. But the only thing is they used that time. They did not. They knew the value of time and they used it completely. That is why Imam al-Tabari did something that was amazing. He sat with some of his his friends at the time, one of the greatest scholars, and if you know the books of tafsir, it's about the third most famous book of tafsir, it's called Tafsir al-Tabari. He sat with some of the scholars and said, I would like to write a book of history, volumes of book of history, that would expand 100,000 pages. And this encyclopedia of history will have from the creation of Adam until the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And it will have this, and it will have that. And everybody looked at him like, are you crazy? Like, we are not enough to write all of this. We could not do this, and we could not do that. And so what he said was, okay. But he did not want to waste his time. He valued his time. So he went in and just started to write and write and write. And did not write the 100,000 pages, but wrote an encyclopedia of history. From the time of the Prophet, from the time of Adam, and the creation of Adam, till the Prophet ﷺ. And then he sat with them and said, why don't we write a book of fiqh that includes usul al-fiqh and all the Islamic jurisprudence about, you know, the tawheed and the zakah and the salah and the fasting and the this and the that, with all the different details and all the different opinions of the scholars and how we can. And they said, this is too much. This is such a very big undertaking. Nonetheless, this amazing Imam al-Tabari said, okay, and he went down and he just started writing something, and he wrote volumes of books of fiqh. And then he said, why don't we do tafsir? Tafsir of the Quran from Surah Al-Fatiha and Al-Baqarah all the way to Surah Al-Nas. But this time it's not a normal tafsir. We're going to write each verse and why that verse was revealed and when it was revealed, during the day or during the night, and who narrated the different stories behind it. And they said, this is such a big undertaking that no one could ever do. And he said, okay, and he just went in and spent his quality time doing it. And over 30 or 40 years, unbelievably, all the goals that he wished everybody would get together to do, he used his time so wisely, so he created all of those encyclopedias. He has an encyclopedia on the tafsir of the Quran, an encyclopedia on fiqh, he has an encyclopedia on a great undertaking, but because he was able to wisely use every minute of his life. That is why if you think about it, every form of worship, Allah reminds us the importance of time. For example, Salah, He says, Inna salata kanat al-mu'minina kitaban mawquta. Salah was prescribed on time, in time. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ was asked, Prophet of Allah, what is the best deed I can ever do? He said, the Salah at the beginning of its time. Not the window. So if Dhuhr is from 1 to 4, let's say, or 4:30, then I think I can pray from 1 to 4:30. The Prophet ﷺ said the best good deed is to pray right at the beginning. So if the adhan is 1, you pray by 1:05 or 1:10. To teach us the importance of sharpness and accuracy and focusing and always scheduling and planning each and every minute of our time. Fasting, the month of Ramadan, you fast this specific number of days at this specific month, from sunrise at this specific minute to sunset. Not only that, but he corners us, the Prophet ﷺ, makes a dua and says, Allah bless the Muslims as long as they break their fast as early as possible and delay the iftar to the last minute. So if adhan is at 7:30 p.m., then at 7:30 p.m. sharp is when I should start breaking my fast to receive that additional beautiful prayer from the Prophet ﷺ. And if the suhoor ends, or the time of the adhan of Fajr starts at 5 a.m., then I should be eating till exactly 5 a.m. or the latest that I could, till closest to 5 a.m. Because that's where the greater blessings come from, the dua of the Prophet ﷺ. Hajj. Al-Hajj ayyamu ashhurun ma'dudat. There are certain days where you perform Hajj, and each and every single thing, Allah reminds us the value of time. So brothers and sisters, what we can do in this beautiful month of Ramadan is get a paper and a pen, or maybe you have notes in your computer, or maybe you already have a calendar on your phone or Google or whatever you use, or Facebook, whatever calendar that you use, and let's write down 3 things. As a Muslim, I need to increase in 3 things every single day. Number 1, in my relationship with Allah. What am I going to do today for the next 20 some days or 30 days of Ramadan? What am I going to do today to make me closer to Allah and love Allah more? And write it down and schedule it and do it. Maybe I'm going to read one juz of the Quran. Maybe I'm going to listen to a lecture by Imam so-and-so who speaks about such and such topics. Maybe I'm going to read the tafsir. Maybe I need to, I'm too attached to the dunya. Maybe I need to visit the cemetery every single day for 5-10 minutes on the way to work or on the way back. Whatever it is that will connect you to Allah and make you a better Muslim, more faithful, more attached, and stronger in your faith. Different people do it differently. But at the end of the day, I'm going to put on my calendar for the next 30 days something that I'm going to do for X amount of minutes at this time or at that time. So I make a habit out of it. So I use my time wisely. The second thing is every single day, I want to write down something that's going to make me a better person. What's going to make me a better person? Maybe it's something that is educational. Maybe I'm going to read a book, either in my field, my career, my education. If I'm a C student, why not be an A student? If I don't know how to read Arabic good, why don't I there's a lot of stuff online, on YouTube, and books and so on that I could study to make me, more educated in the Arabic language and read the Quran better. And alhamdulillah, there's a lot of recordings out there that could make me better in reading better and making best out of the time that I have. But every day I have to make myself better. And also, along with that comes physical. That I exercise, maybe walk or jog or run or lift a little bit of weights, and also my diet, that I want to improve my diet, maybe cut down on this or cut down on that. That's unhealthy to me. And then finally, I always have to do something that gets me closer and shows more love and appreciation and respect for the creation of Allah. So that could be something towards my parents, my children, my spouse, my family, my neighbors, the community that I live in. Maybe there's an organization that helps orphans. Maybe there's a masjid that has something out there, something that has to do with the community. Even furthermore, and a lot of Muslims don't speak about that, even something with animals. Maybe it's an animal shelter out there. We know that the Sahaba, such as Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, cared for cats so much that the Prophet ﷺ nicknamed him Aba Hir, the father of cats, because he just had that concept of animal shelters and support for pets and so on. Furthermore, even the environment, saving the environment or something, a cause out there. But as a Muslim, my calendar has to have those 3 every single day actions that I'm going to schedule, that I'm going to write down on my time that I'm going to do that's going to get me closer to Allah. Maybe it's by reading more Quran. Maybe it's by doing tahajjud and praying a few more rak'ahs after Isha or before Fajr. Just something that's going to get me closer to Allah. Maybe it's more dua. And one thing that I highly recommend is sujood. Lengthy sujood is when you pray 2 rak'ahs and get in the habit of just making sujood. And the Prophet ﷺ used to do it a lot. He would do sujood because that's the closest you are to Allah. The closest you can ever be to Allah is when you're making sujood. So make sujood and just ask Allah for whatever you're thinking of, whatever worries you, whatever you hope for, whatever you wish for. In your sujood, just cry before Allah and ask for it for as long as it takes. And then the second thing, like we said, get on my calendar, get my piece of paper, and write down things that are going to make me better. I know if I learn, if I study, if I'm more educated with the Quran and the meanings of the tafsir of the Quran and the explanations of the Quran, the Arabic language, even different sciences. There's beautiful lectures online about the science of Quran, and it's so beautiful because I get to learn science and I get to learn the Quran at the same time. And there's a lot of beautiful references out there, but things that would make me better. And there's another piece about making me better. It's not just the outside, it's also the heart. One of the most things that Allah rewards for are the actions of the heart. And inshallah, we'll speak about them more. But one of the big things is, how can I purify my heart? I have a little bit of hatred towards certain people, and a little bit of jealousy, and a little bit of anger, and a little bit of why them and not me. And in the month of Ramadan, part of being better, what I need to write down are things that are going to make me more forgiving and more loving. And maybe I'm just going to go through my phone and see people that I haven't spoken with and just, call them and send them something friendly, and maybe even apologize to them if there was some dispute in the past. But I need to break that barrier to be a better person, inside and outside. And then finally, the third thing that I want to do with my time is, how can I be better to all the creation of Allah? Maybe I don't have a relationship with my neighbor. Maybe I just need, you have extra iftar today, knock on your neighbor's door and give it to them, or pick up the phone and call people. But I need to be better and more kinder towards Allah's creation out there, all the people that are out there. And those are the things that we want to put on our calendar every single day. And I finally conclude with something that's very simple yet amazing. We all know the hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Actions are judged and rewarded based on your intention. The Prophet ﷺ says, basically, that if you intend to do something, and for some reason you were not able to do it, you get the full reward of doing it. So if I put a plan that I'm going to memorize the Quran in the next 2 years, so my plan is every day I'm going to read one page 5 times and memorize it and so on. My goal is within 2 years to memorize the entire Quran. And then today, for example, for whatever reason, I wasn't able to meet that schedule. A necessity came up and I wasn't able to meet it. Do you know that I get that full reward? It's as if I read it. Why? Because I planned it, because I put it on my schedule. So let's plan our time and make the best of our time so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless our time. And remember that the highest point is Jannah, with the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is earned by how we spend our time. So be very stingy about your time. Do not waste it. Do not lose it. No one is saying it's wrong to play or have some fun here and there and take an extra nap here and there. But what we're saying is if I cut down on some of those things and use that time, I can use it to be the best and greatest in whatever I want to do. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of us and bless our times. Jazakumullah khair.